I have biographies on everybody that's speaking today, and my next biography simply says, Andrew Weller, patient. Of course, he's a lot more than that to us. He's the chair of Kidney Cancer Canada, and I believe, depending on how he does today, he may continue.
That'll be voted on Monday.
He'll be voted on Monday. So right now, you're voting on his future. Here's Andrew.
First and only standing ovation I'll ever receive. Hi, I'm Andrew Weller. I have kidney cancer. Specifically, I have hereditary papillary renal cell carcinoma, which you just heard a little bit about from Dr. Raymond. So yes, I have hereditary kidney cancer. So kidney cancer has pretty well been a part of my life ever since I can remember. In fact, I've been on clinical studies since my early teen years. 2 of them. So kidney cancer entered my family in 1972 when my father first had a radical nephrectomy. He was found to have kidney cancer, and at the time there was none of these other techniques that we've heard about today. 72, dark ages. They saw cancer, they ripped out your kidney. No questions asked. Subsequent years, very quickly, over the next few years, 5 of my dad's siblings had kidneys, 1 or both removed. So there was 8 children, 5 of them with kidney cancer. So anyways, we ended up on a clinical study that was at St. Mike's Hospital. So when my dad had cancer, it went to my aunt, the second aunt. Finally, we got convinced a few of my aunts and uncles to share their medical documents with each other. A couple of uncles, they didn't really want to even go see a doctor, not alone share information. So there was a bit of, we talked about family dynamics a second ago too. We had all that stuff. Actually, now the family's pretty good. We all have little conferences and we talk about our kidneys. But anyways, so St. Mike's picked us up, and you mentioned, again, we just talked about Van Hippel-Lindau. We got picked up on a study which it was an undefined kidney cancer at the time. Fortunately, my family didn't have all those other symptoms. We didn't have the eye problems, the spinal tumors, all that very debilitating disease. And so fortunately, my family wasn't part of that. We got shelved. We got thrown out of the study. Not a bad thing at that time. So once they found and discovered the Van Hippel-Lindau gene, there was about 5 families that were picked up on that study globally, and we got pulled off the shelves and they started studying that. So I mentioned my dad was one of 8. 5 out of the 8 had kidney cancer. I have 27 cousins. Well, I'm one of 27 cousins. So they picked up our family, started studying us down at the National Institutes of Health, which is just out of Washington, D.C. in Bethesda, Maryland. I think that was also mentioned earlier. They talked about the NIH. So I became part of a study there, and so basically for the last 21 years, I get an annual trip down to Washington, poked and prodded and whatever else. So over the years, my family's been studied. They go down, usually about 4 of us at a time. So we have a bit of a party with some of my cousins down there and whatever, and we get our blood taken and CAT scans, MRIs, and what have you. So after about 7 years, they discovered HPRC through that process. So after that, it went from an unknown disease to a known disease. Then they continued to monitor us. We also heard today about active surveillance. I've never been operated on. I've never had a biopsy. I'm fairly perfectly healthy, so active surveillance for the right candidate, meaning myself in my case, perfectly good treatment. Engineering background, I followed myself. We also mentioned get your results. I have CAT scans, I have MRI scans, I have all my medical records from every year I've been down to the NIH, plotted it all on a graph, and I sort of know when that 3-centimeter target, our kidney cancer, basically they don't operate until it's 3 centimeters. I've graphed that. But as I get older now, I know that date is coming nearer. When I was in my mid-20s, it wasn't so hard to think about. Now it's a little bit more relevant. We also mentioned children in that. I have 2 daughters, and as I said, I have lots of cousins. They have sons and daughters. So we were actively involved in this so that we understand the future, but it's not just for our family. It's not just for our HPRC. The doctors down in Washington, they know that it's not just this. They can then tweak their whatever treatment they come up for lung cancer or breast cancer, what have you. So I have cousins. They were early adopters of laparoscopic surgery. some of the techniques that you've heard about today. The sparing techniques, they were tested on my cousins. New drugs, I have a couple of cousins right now that are on drug trials. I'm fortunate, I've never been on a drug trial either. I was asked to be on one, I guess it was early last year now. Fortunately or unfortunately, I didn't meet all the criteria. The pharmaceutical company that was conducting the trial wanted somebody that had either a biopsy or surgery to define the actual instance of the cancer tumor, the cancer cells in the cancer tumor. So I'm still on active surveillance, and as I said, my cousins, relatives, we're all very actively involved. We sort of talk about it. Somebody mentioned Dr. Google a few times. It's interesting with my family, there is no Dr. Google. We actually Google ourselves to find out when the reports are actually made. So, Dr. Raymond, in one of the presentation I saw the little family chart. He pulled up my chart out of the old paperwork, right? So it's interesting. You can go and where it's anonymous, you don't know who it is, but I know the disease, I know the family tree, I could figure out which cousins are which cousins and things like that. At the time, nobody knew what HPRC was. It was just a disease, and so now I can go back and whenever I need information, I just go back and I Google HPRC and look to see if it was from my family or not. It's a very, very rare cancer, so there's not a lot of families, so we pretty well know who they are. And that's about my story. So.